Hello everyone, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Vianney, and my email is jahumza@ucu.ac.ug. My WhatsApp number is 0779364080. I'm the lecturer that will be taking you in a course unit called Understanding Ethics from a Christian Perspective, which is one of the course units taught under Foundation Studies Department. And this course is very important because it is going to introduce you to the basic concepts of ethics with particular emphasis on a Christian perspective, but it will also give you an opportunity to apply different ethical principles to various challenges that we face today, and also it will introduce you to various ethical systems. Now, what should we expect to cover this semester? This course unit is divided into two. We have the theory part and the application part. So under the ethical theory system, we are going to study the meaning of ethics, and then we shall look at traditional African perspectives on ethics. We shall look at Ubuntu ethics, and then Old and New Testament ethics, and then we shall also go further to look at classical Western ethics, modernism and postmodernism. And when we are done with that, we shall translate that one into applied ethics, of which we shall look at church and society, professional ethics, and then we shall look at making ethical progress, sexuality and marriage, wealth and poverty, and war and punishment. In terms of assessment criteria, the assessment will be in two forms. We shall have the main lecture and then the tutorial. And in terms of the distribution of marks, 10% will be awarded for participation and attendance, and then the weekly assignments will be awarded 20%, and then 10% will be awarded for ethical analysis paper along the way. My co-facilitator will be explaining how you will go about that, and then we shall do a test in the middle of the semester that will also take 10%. So when you sum all that up, it should come up to 50%. Maybe we may be wondering, why should we waste our time in this class? First of all, attending to this class is not a wastage of time, because this course is going to help us to appreciate the concept of thinking and practicing a good way of living. But not only that, but also this course will be so helpful in helping us to distinguish between job skills and life skills, which is important in our professional practice. What is involved in ethics? A number of aspects sum up this whole concept in terms of ethics. In the study of this course unit, we shall be in position to know what is a good conduct. We shall be in position to distinguish between right and wrong, what is a good choice as opposed to a bad choice, and what ought to be done as opposed to what should not be done. And ethics observes human conduct, and it establishes that there are some aspects which are good praised, and there are also aspects which are not good praised. And all that skill, we can only get it in the study of this course unit called ethics. But this course unit is based on four main principles. The first principle is called beneficence, that in everything that you do, you should always do what is good and shun against what is bad. There is also a principle of least harm, that do not harm. In everything that you do, ensure that you do not harm your peers, you do not harm the people that you deal with. And then the third principle is respect for autonomy, that individuals must be given their opportunity to think independently and act independently within the realm of goodness. And then the fourth principle is justice, that in the conduct of our life, we should ensure fairness, we should uphold fairness as much as possible. Now, maybe one may be wondering, where did this ethics originate from? And this whole term called ethics can be traced from the primitive societies, the pre-colonial societies, the ancient societies, that as human beings were just growing up, human beings discovered that there are some gestures one would do that would be praised by the rest of the members of society. And there were also some gestures that another person would do that would be sanctioned by the section of members of a community or society. And therefore, those aspects that were good praised formed what is called morals within the society. Until such a time when societies developed the concept of writing, and when those aspects were written down as guidelines for specific groups of people, then they became moral codes. Therefore, when we are looking at morality and ethics, which I will be defining shortly, you'll find that morality and ethics almost mean the same aspect, even though there is a difference, as I will be explaining later. But let me now concentrate on the real meaning of ethics. What is ethics? So the term ethics comes from the Greek word called ethos, and the term ethics refers to the character or custom of a place or people. But it may also refer to the study of morality in all its forms. And when we are talking about morality, morality refers to those virtues, those values, aspects and aspirations that exist in human society, which are not written down. But when those values are written down, they become an ethical code of conduct. So what do we use as a tool for determining whether what has been done is right or wrong? So the object of ethics is human conduct. We observe human conduct, and you can either tell that what I have done towards you is either good or bad, or what I have done is right and wrong by observing my own behavior. And therefore, it is very, very important that we pay attention, especially in terms of how we relate with others, and that translates into our professionalism. Now, if ethics refers to morality that is written down, so where did morality come from? There are three main origins of morality. Human beings acquired morality and have continued to acquire morality through religion, which is the divine revelation from the supernatural sources. But also there are some values and concepts of good and bad that we get from the human society. Our communities, our families, relatives and in-laws, schools. There are a lot of do's and don'ts that we acquire through engaging in this department of society. But the third source, main source of morality is the human person. That human beings are so unique in such a way that there are some inborn potential that seem to be amplified as we get exposed to the environment in terms of looking at something and considering something as right and also considering another aspect as wrong. So no one can claim not to have morals, because morality is inborn. And it is because of that potential that human beings have that we are able to reason independently and also contribute to the common good in our societies. Now, ethics and morality compared. Whereas ethics and morality all focus on on distinguishing between right and wrong as a common phenomenon, there are also other pointers that seem to highlight the difference between morality and ethics. For instance, you will discover that ethics comes from an external source. Let's say you are in an organization, and an organization gives you rules and regulations to follow. But when it comes to morality, morality is within a person. It comes from the heart of a person in terms of an individual's convictions that will guide this person to behave in a certain way or the other. Ethics defines how things are done according to rules. But morals, on the contrary, you find that morals define how things should work according to the individual's ideals and principles. The source of ethics in most cases is external, but the source of morality is internal. And in most cases, we practice ethics because society says it is the right thing to do. But in terms of morality, we practice or we uphold morals because we are convinced intrinsically within ourselves that what we are doing is the right thing and not a wrong thing. And in most cases, when somebody breaks an ethical code of conduct, they are punished. One may be fired from a job, and many other punishments that may be administered. But on the contrary, when one breaks any morality or violates any set morals, the consequence is a guilty conscience that somebody feels within themselves that what they have done is not the right thing. Now, this leaves us in a dilemma. After having understood the meaning of ethics and morality and how both of them are related and also the difference that exists between the two, that how can I tell that the decision that I have done is the right decision or is not, or is the wrong decision? Now, there is a technique we use called the double effect principle. The double effect principle looks at the intention behind what has been done. It analyzes the intention. And the double effect principle states that if a good intention is intended, but along the way some negative consequences come along, then we shall consider that decision that has been done to have been a good decision. Because the original intent was for good, but alongside the way, some negative consequences come along. For instance, look at a parent, a father who loves, let's say, their daughter, and maybe they want their daughter to be protected all the time, to an extent that even when their daughters have reached university level, the parents leave the village to come and pay fees and follow up on everything, 24 hours monitoring this child. And when this child has finished university and has gone out in the field, maybe this child cannot cope up with the field because they have not been given the independence of doing things independently. So in that particular instance, we will not blame a parent that what the parent did was the wrong thing, because the intention was to protect the child. But then the child ends up not gaining independent skills to enable them fit in the community. Now, the second principle under double effect principle states that if a bad intention is intended, but along the way a good consequence comes along, then we shall consider that gesture to have been a bad gesture. For instance, look at a child who is living with a stepfather or stepmother, and then this stepmother has other children. The children are not so bright in class, but this child is very bright. And because of that, one time, this stepmother is looking for a way of isolating this child. And one time, this stepmother gets hot water, powers the hot water on this child, and the child is taken to hospital. The news is all over the media. And then the hospital recommends that this child should be taken to an international hospital for surgery. And when this child has been taken to such a hospital, then a certain BBC journalist lands on the story, and then the story is all over in some international media outlets, and then a department of UN that deals with children's rights, the person who heads that department lands on this story and decides to get in touch with this family, and therefore probably this child is given an opportunity to become an ambassador to speak on behalf of other children who may be suffering under their stepmom. Now, after maybe a month, if one day we are watching a TV and this child is addressing a large gathering and the media is there and the stepmother is also watching, there is no way stepmother can say, look at this child of mine. If I had not burnt this child wouldn't have gotten an opportunity to become a world celebrity. We shall say that from the moral perspective, what the original intention was to kill the child, but out of something bad, something good came along the way. And therefore, we shall consider that decision to have been a bad decision. So this therefore means that, like in law, a case can graduate from manslaughter to murder, because this judge will be looking at the intention behind the action. If the original intention was not to kill, then it will become manslaughter. But if the intention was to kill, then it will become murder. Now, I would like to leave you with a famous quotation that from Immanuel Kant, that Immanuel Kant is quoted to have said in the context of understanding morality and ethics, that in law, a man is guilty when he violates the rights of others. But in ethics, he is guilty if he only thinks about doing so. In other words, when we are looking at the concept of morality and ethics, we look at even by having a wrong thinking about something does not exonerate me from being considered to be a bad person. And this is in consonance with what Christ told us, that we should love God with all our heart, with all our mind, and with all our soul. And we should love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Because whatever we do, sin begins from the heart. And human behavior correlates with whatever that will be in our heart, which will be just demonstrated in terms of how we relate with others. Therefore, for this particular chapter, let us look at all the materials that we may land on that are in consonance with understanding ethics. The Holy Bible is very key in guiding us, and also we have our guiding book, Understanding Ethics from a Christian Perspective, which is already uploaded online. But other reference books that will be important will include the New Dictionary of Christian Ethics and Pastoral Theology by Atkinson David, and also Reading in Christian Ethics, Issues and Application Volume 2 by Clark David. I would like to conclude this discussion by emphasizing that goodness is very, very important in human life. Whether you are training as a lawyer or as a medical doctor, as a journalist, as a businessman, as a social worker, consider goodness as a very important aspect in human life. And there is a lot of benefit associated with being good. In fact, some scholars have even asserted that it appears as if good things go to good people. So it is not a loss to always uphold goodness. And finally, success in life is associated with good morals. Therefore, the more you uphold morals in your private and public lifestyle, and for the greater good of your professional training and practice, the more also you'll be succeeding in your workplaces, in your homes, in your businesses, and in everything that you will be doing. Because there is no person who wants something bad done towards them. We always seek for goodness, and extending the same goodness to others is very, very key and very vital for our own good lifestyle. Thank you so much for listening, and next week we shall be looking at African perspectives on ethics. Good day.